Now, the best part of cooking anything, getting to taste. I won't lie, the strawberries help a little bit. Hey, I'm Nick DiGiovanni, and throughout my career as a chef, I've been lucky to cook for some of the biggest stars out there, including Gordon Ramsay, Mr. Beast, and even the GOAT himself, Tom Brady. Today, I'll be making one of Tom Brady's favorite desserts, avocado ice cream. Something I imagine he'd probably enjoy after a big game or a long day of practice. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, avocado ice cream? That sounds creative. And you'd be right. But the thing is, Tom Brady has to avoid dairy in his diet, so he's got to get creative with his desserts. My favorite part of this recipe is how simple it is. We've got all our ingredients laid out here, starting with our cocoa powder, some dates, some raw cashews, an avocado, coconut, and even this protein powder, which is a chocolate protein powder that happens to be Tom Brady's own protein powder. And the first thing we'll be doing is soaking these cashews. So with these cashews, what I'm gonna do is add them to a bowl and then pour over some very hot boiling water. So what this is gonna do is break down those cashews. When you blend it into the ice cream, we want the smoothest and creamiest ice cream we possibly can have. The reason I'm doing this first is so we can let it sit as we prepare the rest of our ingredients. That way our cashews will be as soft as possible when it comes time to blend. So the next thing we'll do is pit our dates. And essentially what these are gonna do in this recipe is give us that sweetness that we desperately need for an ice cream. Whether you've tasted a date plain or not, you'll probably find it in tons and tons of energy or power bars. As I pit the rest of these dates, I'll tell you a funny story about how I actually came to make this video with Tom Brady.
I want to eat like you for a day. Oh, all right.
We actually reached out to him just like we would any other guest. And I have to say, I was pretty surprised because it was right around playoffs time. So I sort of figured he'd probably be more focused on training for the game than making avocado ice cream with me. The biggest thing that I remember from the actual day of the shoot was the fact that I was so surprised he was okay with taking the knife and actually throwing it into the cutting board. Because all I could think about was, what if Tom Brady cut his finger or his hand off? Everyone was gonna blame me.
Let's make an ice cream sundae.
A perfect spiral.
I love avocados.
This next step here is probably what I'm most looking forward to our recipe today. So we get to open the coconut, which you can really pick any method you want for this. My biggest tip here would be to make sure that you grab yourself a young coconut to use here. Not only will you be able to drink that delicious sweet water that's on the inside, but it's also gonna have that nice flesh around the edges that we're gonna use for the ice cream. The exciting part here is that we get to pick our weapon, chef's knife or mallet. And if you so choose, you can also run outside and throw it against the ground as many times as you want, but it's a little bit less food safe. Because I'm so much more comfortable with it, I'm gonna choose the chef's knife. You certainly have to be careful at this part here because you wanna watch your fingers, but my favorite thing to do when opening one of these coconuts is slowly slice off the edges on the outside until you see that inner part of the coconut start to get exposed. Then you'll be able to break in and find that liquid and the coconut flesh. As you can see, we're already starting to expose the flesh of the coconut, but I am gonna take things just a bit further and go around those edges so that we have enough space to get in there and get the coconut flesh. So as you can see now, there's a very, very thin layer of flesh on the top, which we can easily break through to get all of that water. I'm just gonna very lightly puncture that with my knife. Let's dump out our coconut water. That's a lot of coconut water. So much more than I thought there would be. Now, looking at this water actually makes me think about the fact that I've always used regular water, which is what the recipe often calls for, and specifically what Tom Brady's recipe calls for. But I would be curious to see what happened if you used coconut water in the recipe instead of regular water. So if one of you wants to try it, comment below if it works out. It's time now to collect all of this coconut meat, which I'm gonna get by scraping down the sides of the coconut with a spoon, and it should come right out. Growing up in New England, I was, of course, very excited to make a video with Tom. And I have to say, of any collab I've ever done, it was probably the only time I've ever been nervous. I also remember being really surprised when he walked in the room just by how tall he was. He's a super tall guy. And the best part is, he's really nice. We had a lot of fun making the video. Funnily enough, the coconut meat almost looks like ice cream. This coconut meat here is what's gonna make our ice cream really milky, really creamy. And we need that, given this is a vegan ice cream. The coconut is gonna come in and save the day. We're almost done prepping all our ingredients. Next up is this avocado, which I also have another fun trick for. Believe it or not, I saw this trick in one of Gordon Ramsay's videos, and if you haven't seen it already, he actually wrote the foreword to my cookbook. I've gotten some fantastic tips from him in the past, and I want to share this one. We'll start by slicing our lemon, and I actually have this special way of slicing lemons that I outlined several times in my book as well, where you don't really get any seeds when you cut it. Very simply, you slice off one end, and right away you can just tell how clean of a cut this is. Then you flip it over, slice off the other side, then lay this piece flat and cut off the last two sides. This leaves that core of the lemon with all the seeds in the middle, and a few nice slices of lemon that you can easily juice. The avocado we're gonna slice the classic way. Slice in the center and come all the way around with your knife. then twist and separate, then carefully whack into the pit with your knife and twist and pull. Now, as for the trick, all you're gonna do is squeeze some of that lemon juice into the avocado, then rub all that juice around so it's coating every surface of that avocado, and you won't have it oxidize. It won't turn brown. Okay, it's time to blend. We're gonna add our fresh coconut meat, our cocoa powder, our protein powder, our dates, our water, and our avocado, which still has not turned brown. Oh, and I almost forgot. Don't forget your soaked and strained raw cashews. Oh, and speaking of cashews, before I blend and make all this noise, I want to tell you about one last little fun thing I did with Tom. I made a video where for the entire day I cooked and ate the way Tom Brady does. And my favorite recipe of the day was this cashew dressing that was vegan and went on top of the salad and was probably one of my favorite dressings I've ever made. Just for a little texture. Whoa, that is really good. I can't wait for the rest of the salad. It makes total sense, given that he's one of the best athletes to have ever lived, that he's gonna follow not just a strict training regimen, but also a very strict diet. But even for me, just for one day, it was hard to eat that way. It was so incredibly restrictive. No dairy, no nightshades, so that means things like tomatoes and eggplants and peppers. He even avoids a lot of things like fresh fruit, which have a lot of sugar, but for me, I wouldn't be able to do it. The first thing you'll notice after blending this, it smells exactly like brownie batter. And the craziest part is, it also actually pours a little bit like brownie batter. For this next step here, you just want to put it in whatever pan you like. I'm gonna use a loaf pan, because that'll make it really nice and easy for me to scoop it later once it's hardened. And I'll admit, this part of the process makes me wish these were brownies, but unfortunately, that's not something Tom will eat. Which makes me wonder if there's anything at all in my cookbook that Tom would actually eat. Though when I scan through it, I do imagine he might be interested in the air fryer salmon, which does have a little bit of mayonnaise, but if you make it homemade, I bet he'd give it a shot. Even though this recipe doesn't necessarily count as baking, it actually is one of those recipes where I would say you want to lick the spoon. And tastes just like brownie batter too. We're gonna cover this now with plastic wrap and toss it in the freezer where it should set for a couple of hours, but that timing is gonna vary based on your freezer at home. Anytime I'm doing this with ice cream, I also have a good little trick. Instead of placing the plastic wrap across the top, make sure you push it down and sit it on top of that ice cream. And what that's gonna do is make sure you don't get any freezer burn. You can't enjoy ice cream without toppings, so I am gonna add a few fun little toppings on my ice cream here. Keep in mind they do have to be vegan to go along with the avocado ice cream, so I'm gonna top it with coconut flakes, a few cocoa nibs, and some strawberries because he wouldn't let me eat strawberries on the day we actually made this together. Fun fact, he doesn't not eat strawberries for dietary reasons, he actually just hates the taste. Before I dive in, it looks amazing, and if I handed this to anybody, I don't think they'd know it wasn't just regular plain old chocolate ice cream. So without even tasting it, this definitely passes the visual test. Now, the best part of cooking anything, getting to taste. Wow. Part of me is in disbelief that we made this using avocados and coconut and unsweetened cocoa powder. We've already talked about how this could fool you by just looking at it. It looks like chocolate ice cream and it tastes a lot like chocolate ice cream. I thought it would be a little bit more grainy, but it's extremely smooth, probably because we soaked those cashews. It's really chocolatey, but not too chocolatey, which I like. I don't enjoy chocolate flavored desserts if they hit you with too much chocolate, but this is perfect. Overall, it's actually a really well-balanced ice cream. The consistency is smooth and I would say passable as regular ice cream. The flavor is perfect. I was so nervous that I would taste a lot of that avocado or some of the dates, but it somehow all comes together in a perfect way. I remember sitting with a bunch of my college roommates a few years back watching the Super Bowl when the Pats played the Falcons and came back from 28-3, which Tom did do a little joke about and reference when we made our video together.
3 dates, 28-3.
And now I realize that moment, watching them win against all odds, could have only been better with a little bit of his avocado ice cream. If you're watching this, I imagine you've got a sweet tooth just like me, and I've got this entire section of sweets and treats filled with plenty of delicious desserts that I know you'll love in my new cookbook. You can buy Knife Drop on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or anywhere books are sold, and don't forget to go to delish.com to check out more recipes. Bye!